Welcome. Thank you for joining us for the LACO Center for Distance and Online Learning TEAL Artist Interview Series. This session will be on theater. The TEAL group is really excited to have so many partners that make this kind of work possible. We thank the LA County Office of Education, the Center for Distance and Online Learning, and the Los Angeles County Arts and Culture. I, along with Peggy, will be your host for this session. I'm Kimberly Breen, and my background is mostly in multi-tiered systems of support and positive behavior support, where I support schools, districts, and states in figuring out how to offer everything we have within education so that it meets all the needs of all of our diverse learners. My artistic connection is that I have an 11-year-old who considers himself a director, and I'm often cast in his informal plays at home.
Hi, everyone. I'm Peggy Burt. I am an arts education consultant to LACO and to many organizations around the state of California, where I work with school districts and county offices of education to increase access and equity in arts education. I'm also a dancer and a dance teaching artist. But right now I spend most of my time with yoga and mindfulness, and I will be sharing some of those mindfulness practices with you today. I'm also the proud mother of a visual artist. She works as a graphic designer in the entertainment industry, and so I put a bucket of paintbrushes there to remind us all that we are all artists.
I love that, Peggy. And so these sessions are going to cover several areas within the arts. We have instrumental and vocal music, dance, STEAM, and theater. Be sure that you check out all of the artist interviews as they're rolled out from TEAL. We also want you to keep in the back of your mind as you go through this session the idea of a three-tiered system of support. And so we think of a multi-tiered system of support, or MTSS, as a way to make sure that we are modifying our delivery of instruction and supports to young people based on their strengths and their needs. So when you see that triangle, that gives us that little visual that there are things we do for all of our learners, and then there are some things we might do differently or in addition for some and few. And of course, that three-tiered system of support includes integrating social emotional learning all throughout. And in these series, we're looking at how to integrate the arts into all instruction along with social emotional learning in a way that meets the needs of all learners. So we're really excited to be working with TEAL, where they bring all of these various areas of education together into one.
So here's my first opportunity to share a mindful moment with you. John Kabat-Zinn has defined mindfulness meditation as the awareness that arises from paying attention on purpose in the present moment without judgment. And we find that it's really helpful to ground ourselves in the present moment, especially in challenging times, just to find ourselves here and now. I'd like to invite you to find the earth below your feet. Just let your feet relax inside of your shoes or socks. Feel how you're sitting in your chair. Let your shoulders draw down away from your ears. Feel yourself tall, spine lengthening. And then just notice for a moment how you're breathing. Perhaps slowing the breath down a little bit, lengthening the breath. Just coming into the body. Quieting the mind so that it can be present, open, and receptive. Thank you for sharing that mindful moment with me. You can open your eyes if they're closed. So throughout our session today, we'd like to invite you to pause, to process. We have a few video clips that we're showing. And especially after each of the clips, I will invite you into a mindful moment to process what you've seen, what you wonder, what you've noticed. If you have any questions or want to find out more information, just think about dreaming how these arts practices, integrated practices, can be placed in your school site with your students, your teachers, and begin to plan or sketch out what that might look like for you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Peggy. All right, let's meet the artist.
Hey, Pam, how are you?
Hi, I'm well. Thank you guys so much for joining us. I'm really excited that our listeners and viewers are getting to meet you and your work during this session. Would you both just take a few moments to tell people a little bit about yourselves and your connection to your art form?
Yeah, well, we've been connected to the art form for a while, haven't we?
And to each other.
That's right.
For a while.
We're married too, full
Husband and
disclosure.
wife.
So we will be talking over each other.
And welcome to our home.
That's right. Our home away from home is normally 24th Street Theater on the corner of 24th and Hoover. Of course, right now we're on the online space, but normally we're there doing really three things. We do arts education. We do a lot of community work with particular members of our community. And then we also do professional children's theater that we do here and tour around the country. So we do all three of those buckets.
Yes, and we're artists, of course. I'm a director. I'm the head of drama at Colburn School as well. I work extensively with the Los Angeles Philharmonic, who are, like so many arts organizations, on hiatus right now. But it's a pleasure to be able to create art with and for children. I think it's an important voice that needs to be heard, how we message to children, and quality professional theater for kids is something that really gives me a lot of joy and satisfaction.
So you were just starting to talk a little bit, Debbie, about yourself actually as an artist. So would you both just give us a little bit more background about yourself as an artist before even getting into how you teach others within the arts? Would you share just a little bit more about your background there?
You go first.
Well, I began, as so many of us that direct, I began as an actor and spent a lot of time in the professional theater. Very excited, however, to meet Jay, who was a like-minded artist with me, also an actor, and together we created a company called the Glorious Players, which was named after my mama, who gave me a lot of support.
Gloria.
And so we had a company of artists, and we worked for many years out of the Odyssey Theater, created professional theater for young audiences. And then together we founded 24th Street Theater almost 24 years ago.
How awesome. Oh, I love that it was almost 24 years ago right now.
Yeah.
How beautiful. And I love that story. It's like family within family. And I have to say, having been to your theater, it really feels like you're visiting family, putting on a show.
Thank
Your
you.
whole
Try
team.
hard to make that happen.
Thank you.
I'm glad it
Really?
We serve over 10,000 kids a year that come on a field trip to the theater. So and that's a 100-seat theater. So it's wonderful to be able to have that kind of intimacy and make that kind of difference in a small room, in the room where it really does happen.
Right. Yeah, I noticed that when I was there, smaller groups of youth, but you're so busy. You do that every day and so often, I'm sure. And I know we're going to get to talk a little bit about how you now do it online more too, which is awesome. So tell us just a little bit more about that part of your work. So you are artists yourselves, but you're also teaching artists. You actually teach young people about the theater. Would you tell us a little bit more about that part of your work?
Well, Debbie is a master teacher. She teaches symphony conductors all over the world with the LA Phil and the Colburn School. So when I met Debbie back in the 80s, she was teaching and kind of brought me in to teach me how to teach. And it took a while. It took quite a few years actually before I got my sea legs. But you know, that's where it started. And what we have grown 24th Street into is kind of dovetailing our professional theater work, which is a little edgy. It's a little, you know, it's not traditional children's theater. It's not 3-year-old, you know, cookies and milk kind of theater. It's a little more, in fact, you might see it and go, what do you mean children's theater? This looks like adult theater to me. And that's our goal most of the time with the way Debbie directs. It's usually, it's quite intentional. We want the kids to feel like they're not being pandered to and like they're sitting in on an adult show.
And we figured this out because we spent so many years teaching. And when you really listen to kids and you really hear them, especially kids that are in an urban world who are aware of the world around them, you know how sophisticated they are, and you know how important it is that they have a cathartic experience just like any adult. So the work that we do was inspired by and reflects the maturity and sophistication of the kids in our city.
I love that. It's so obvious because the time I got to sit in at your theater a couple times, you include children from the audience and you very quickly give them roles and they go right into acting. And it's such a great way to give them responsibility and make them feel like they are just as worthy of all the adult actors there. So I think what you're getting at, it's really the essence you can feel. So you're artists, you are teaching artists, you teach students about the theater, and then you also provide professional development to other people so that they can take the idea of theater into the way they support students. And so I know that was when we were together, you were actually modeling how to do this for other educators. Would you chat just a little bit about that part of your work, how you model for teachers and other folks in education, how to give this value to students?
The secret to it is we're so darn lucky because we're not teaching you bassoon, you know. we're teaching you the art form of theater, which is speaking and listening. And 50% of that, 75% of that is we already do it. So if there is that feeling of immediate success that you can have with this art form, you can build on it so much more quickly than if you're teaching instrumental music, voice, ballet, visual arts. And that's the wonderful thing about it. So we're really lucky in that way. So we build from that feeling of success and competency with teachers, with musicians, as Jay said, and certainly with kids.
And the big thing we bring to professional development is what we try to focus on most of the time is the basics, just reminding teachers why they got into this hard work.
Right. So it's two things that we really want to convey when we're doing professional development. One, storytelling is the critical central fact of the work that we do. Telling a story, the simplest of stories. How somebody walks across a room is a story. How somebody sits down or used to shake hands, those are stories. And teaching is a performing art. And if you think about that, if you understand the core of storytelling and you can grasp that and you think about yourself as a performer, it's such an easy way to access how you can bring theater to the classroom.
I love that. I love teaching as a performing art. Please, Jay.
Well, when you see teachers do it, I assume it happened the day you were there. You know, if once they start doing it, it builds on itself, and by the end, they are taller than when they walked in.
Yeah, they are.
Because they see themselves as artists and as performers, and that really does make you feel good if you can stand up, especially an adult. You can stand up in front of 25 of your peers and just let it rip and don't hold back. You should feel good about that. You know, that's a courageous act.
Right. And they have an audience of 25 kids every day.
Right.
Take advantage of it, perform it,
and
enjoy
we hear this
it.
all the time from teachers. Oh, well, we're fine with kids, but man, put me in front of my peers and I just freeze. I can't do it. Well, we show them they can.
Right. So when you say courageous act, and I'll say that the performances I've seen your theater put on had some courage in them. You really tackle issues of social justice and equity. Would you just set us up a little bit for this clip where everyone's in for a treat? We're going to show you part of a small play, and then you'll get to see the second part of it at the end of our interview. So would you all just kind of set us up for what people are going to be seeing here in the beginning?
Yeah, so this is a segment. It starts out with a little comedic shtick with one of our students, and it's kind of our brand, that irreverent. So that's the beginning, and then what you will see is a scene, and it's a scene set in the South in the 60s, and it's about poll tests, which is something that was really happening back in the 60s in the Deep South, where they were making African Americans kind of take improvised tests, in order to vote. So it was a voter suppression tool in the South.
Right, and the very beginning of it is introducing in a funny way, as Jay said, the elements of theater. What are the things that really make a live theater happen? How, what are the elements of it? And then the core of it, the reason of it, the real central fact of it would be that it is about, as I said before, story and storytelling.
So it's a story, at face value about prejudice and injustice. And we layer it in here, so you'll see it in a couple of iterations, kind of the rehearsal piece of it, and then at the end we'll show you the final performance.
Exactly. And literacy, knowing how to read, and the importance and the critical importance of knowing how to read is another content area that we always try to emphasize in the work we do with kids.
Excellent. All right, everyone, let's take a look.
Theater is all about
lights. Can I have this light at 50%, please?
no. He says to the lighting designer, no, it's not about lights.
All right, blackout.
No, I didn't mean we don't need lights at all. It's important. Lights are important. I'm sorry. Thank you.
All right, then can I have this downstage wash at 75%?
But theater's not about lights. Theater is about
actors.
No, it's not about actors.
But Jay, you can't do a play without actors.
Try me. No. Theater is about telling
Actors how great they are.
No, Will. No. No. It's not about actors, and it's not about lights. Theater is about...
It's about costumes.
No, Stephanie.
Do you want all your actors running out naked?
Nobody's naked. Get out of here. Nope. Nobody's naked. It's not about costumes or lights or actors. People, focus. This is basic. Basic. Theater is about music. No. Sam. What? No, it's more basic than that. Go. It's a tool. It's not music. It's not music or costumes or lights. It's not even actors. Theater is about
Telling stories.
Yes.
And we've been telling stories in theater for 2,500 years.
And you, madam, don't look a day over 2,000.
Don't be rude.
That's my job.
All right. Now we're going to tell you a story, and we're going to use all the tools of the theater, all the elements. We're going to use
Lights.
Actors.
Costumes.
music, all that, and an audience. The year is 1964. 1964. That was a time in America when there was a tremendous amount of change. So much was changing. The music we were listening to, the clothes we were wearing, our ideas were changing. But there was one thing in America that we were still struggling with, and that was prejudice. You know the kind of prejudice I'm talking about? Where people hated each other because of the color of their skin. Well, our story takes place in Stone County, Mississippi, deep in the American South. It's election day, a national election. And it's the story of an old African-American man who's come to a polling place to vote for the very first time in his life. His name is Medgar Jefferson, and he's being played by Will. Also in this polling place is a poll worker. That's somebody that's there to help you vote. His name is Clyde, but Clyde, he suffers from prejudice. He's being played by Brad. And there's one more character in our play. Her name is Doris May Ogilvy, and she is the daughter of the man that Medgar works for. And she is being played by one of you. Just something about that voice. I'm loving it. All right. No matter what play it is, you always start with going over the dialogue, the words.
So we're going to go over the words of the dialogue, and here's what happens. Medgar and Doris May are walking down the corridor of the hallway, getting ready to open the door and to go into the polling place. And Medgar says this to his dear friend.
Tell me, Doris May, how was school today?
And she says, boring. Let me hear you say boring.
Boring. Now you listen here, I know you may not appreciate it now, but you go to that schoolhouse and get all the learning you can. You know, some of us, we weren't able. Now you know what I have to do today. I have to go vote. But you believe it, a man of my age ain't never voted before, but today I am. Today I am.
And he opens the door and he crosses the threshold and he walks in, he looks over and he sees that voting booth. He's never seen a voting booth before in his life. And a big smile crosses his face and he looks over at Clyde and he says this.
Excuse me, sir, here to vote.
Well, she's too young to vote.
No, no, sir, not her. Me, I am here to vote.
In that case, polls is closed.
No, the polls are not closed. And Clyde knows perfectly well that Doris May is not here to vote. He's doing everything he can to keep this man from his voice being heard, his vote being made.
Well, now, by law, you're supposed to be open till 6 o'clock, and it's only, what, 4:30?
You never voted before. It's a long procedure. You won't be done before 8 o'clock. Usually it's too late.
Well, all I have to do is fill out that there ballot, stick it in the box. Won't take me but more than a minute.
Ain't you the Ogilvy's boy?
Well, now, I work for Mr. Ogilvy, if that's what you mean.
Clyde is insulting Medgar in a way that African Americans were insulted. He's heard it all his life. He's not turning back. He knows why he's here today.
Ain't you the Ogilvy's boy?
Well, I work for Mr. Ogilvy, if that's what you mean.
Well, is you a resident?
You already know where I live.
Well, that's not for me to decide. That's for the government. That's for the great state of Mississippi. Now, did you pay your poll tax?
I most assuredly did.
Now, you registered to vote. You do know what I mean by registered, don't you?
Yes, sir, I am registered to vote, and I most certainly know what you mean.
Can you even read the ballot?
No. No one has ever taught Medgar how to read.
Well, I know what I need to know.
Oh, you know what you needs to know. Well, if he knows what he needs to know, he know his name's got to be here on this list in order to vote. And, well, it ain't there.
Now, whether it's 1964 or today, you always have to be registered to vote. And Clyde is telling Medgar his name is not in this book. But Doris May knows better. And she walks over to the book and she points to it and she says, there it is.
There it is.
Bravo, baby, bravo. Good job. We need the courthouse where all of this happens. So can you hold this important prop for me and stand right over here as we build the set for the courthouse, right here. Now we've got the set, we have a little music, we have lights, we have a physical video image that helps us make believe this is a hallway or a corridor. Now we're going to perform it. We're going to perform it for you, but we're missing one element. We've got the set, we've got the lights, we've got music, right? We've got the dialogue. What are we missing? What's not here? Exactly, costume.
Did someone say costume?
Costumes define the character. They help us understand who they really are.
Tell me, Doris May, how was school today?
Boring.
Boring? Boring? Now, you listen here. I know you may not appreciate it now, But you go to that schoolhouse, get yourself all the learning you can. You know, some of us, we weren't able. All right. Now, you know what I have to do today? I have to go vote. Believe it. Men my age ain't never voted before. Today I am. Oh, today I am. Come along. Watch your step. Excuse me, sir. Here to vote?
Well, she's too young to vote.
Oh, no, sir. Not her. Me. I am here to vote.
Well, in that case, polls is closed.
Well, now, by law, you're supposed to be open till 6 o'clock, and, well, it's only 4:30.
You
right
never voted before.
It's a long procedure. You won't be done before 8 o'clock. Usually too late.
Oh, well, now, all I have to do is fill out that there ballot, stick it in the box, won't take me but more than a minute.
Ain't
now.
you the Ogilvy's boy?
Well, now, I work for Mr. Ogilvy, if that's what you mean.
Well, is you a resident?
You already know where I live.
Well, that's not for me to decide. That's for the government. That's for the great state of Mississippi. Now, did you pay your poll tax?
Oh, yes, I most assuredly did.
Uh-huh. Now, you registered to vote. You do know what I mean by registered, don't you?
I most certainly know what you mean, and yes, I am registered to
Can
vote.
you even read the ballot?
Well, I know what I needs to know.
You know what you needs to know.
Well, if he knows what he needs to know, he knows his name's got to be here on this list in order to vote. And, well, it ain't there. Pleasure to see you, Doris, man.
There it is.
Medgar Sanford Jefferson III. Come along, Doris, man. Now I want you to stand right here, hold my hat, have to go vote.
Welcome back, everyone. I know you enjoyed that clip. It's absolutely wonderful. Well, we're at another mindful moment, and before I invite you to pause and reflect on what you've seen, I would like for you to take a cue from our wonderful animal here and just stretch. Oh, just feel your back and your shoulders and your arms. Roll your shoulders if that feels good. If you've been holding your breath high in your chest, just let your breath drop down into your belly. Sometimes when we sit and we're focused so intently on a screen, we forget about our bodies. The animals never forget. They are always listening to their natural impulses and moving when they need to move. So I'd like to also remind you of that. Feel free at this moment if you'd like to do a little journaling or write down any notes about what you saw in the clip, what you heard Debbie and Jay share before the clip about their approach to theater, to storytelling, to our shared humanity, and just ideas about what this might look like as you bring theater into your own classrooms, your own school sites, with your teachers, with your administrators, telling our stories together. Thank you for sharing in this mindful moment with me. All right. We are back. I'm so excited. I get to ask the next set of questions. Hi, Jay and Debbie.
Hi.
So I'd like to pick up on the thread of professional development, teaching teachers. And as you think about the emotions that the teachers bring, Jay, you hit on that a little bit, but how do you create a sense of a brave space or a safe space for teachers to really explore the big ideas in your work?
Talking with them. In other words, we don't bring teachers into the room with the notion that, that they're the students. In fact, we see them as teachers, and we kind of see them as our teachers, even though we're leading the workshop, because we're not credentialed educators, although we've been teaching for 30 plus years in the classroom, on an artist basis. So our relationship with the teachers is more of a partnership. It's not, they're here for us to give them data. It's more of a working relationship, and because we present ourselves as artists to them and theater people. And so that's the big thing that, brings them around, I think, is we basically just bring them into our world and say, let's play, and they come along.
And we honor them as adults. It is not a professional development where we're just conveying, here are some exercises you can do with your kids. It is geared to them. It is focused on them as adults with adult themes and adult feelings and consciousness, which is certainly adaptable because teachers are so smart how they can adapt it to children. So that kind of equality, that freedom in the room, right? That's, you said safe space. That is the freedom. Oh, I can be an adult, I can say whatever it is I want to say. And that is a sanctuary in which art can be explored. We also use live music. We have a live musician in the room, which adds to the fun and the joy and the scoring of what's happening emotionally. So we produce the professional development opportunities. That's why it's so great to be
kind of a
do
show.
It is. It's a show, and we remind them what we've done, and we hope that we touch them. We hope that they really feel that part of who they are as a human being. Kim was just saying that, right? The human spirit, and you were saying that, the human spirit. And that's what this art form is, right? Celebrating the stories of who we all are, the human spirit.
I want to pick up on what you were just saying, Debbie, about really connecting. I mean, you're both talking about mutual respect, co-creating, learning from each other, which, magic can happen when the other person feels like they're also bringing something to the table, and that they're both giving and receiving. When I've seen your work, I'm always really struck by how you are so connected to the community around 24th Street, seeing the stories of immigration, seeing the stories of justice in our streets. Can you talk a little bit about the process of cultural diversity or cultural relevance? If you want to speak to the one that you were really exploring some of the immigration issues, I thought that was very poignant indeed.
Yeah, we started in '96, so it was just a few years after the Rodney King riots. The city was still really divided. The neighborhood where 24th Street Theater is at that point was very rough. It was kind of a scary neighborhood. There was a lot of crime, and it was not the safest neighborhood.
Of course, wanted to be there.
We're theater people. Like, hey,
how exciting!
There's a warehouse. We could do shows.
Well, hey,
we're there. And it actually was. It was 4 West Side theater artists that ended up down in the inner city because the dean of USC wanted a professional theater in the neighborhood, and he got us set up with a space and got it started. And the neighborhood is very much an inner city neighborhood. It's gentrified a lot in these years, but that's how the community relationship started. We were in there hanging the light grid, and a kid came and stood in the lobby doors and hollered in at us, hey, what are you guys doing? And Debbie and I climbed off our ladders and went over and talked to the kid. And, and it was the first person we met in the neighborhood. And he didn't understand what we were doing. He was saying, what are you doing? And we said, we're building a theater. And he couldn't get it. He said, so will there be beer? He was 11. And we said, no, there'll be shows. There'll be a show. Oh, like a movie? No, like live shows, like actors. like a different show every day? No, there'll be a show. It'll be here for a month. And we realized after we left, we said, man, we've really got an opportunity to do something in this neighborhood. You know, these kids in this neighborhood haven't seen what we're doing. They don't know this. We could bring it to them. So that was the beginning, and it's now 23 years later, and we have been really welcomed in our community.
Yeah, so welcome. And the other thing we learned that day is a core value of our space. It's an old warehouse, and it has big green carriage doors. And what we learned was you keep those doors open. They were open that day, and he came in. And when we're there, they're always open, not just unlocked, but wide open. And everybody walks in. The neighborhood walks in, whether it's graduate students or even the homeless, certainly, or the neighborhood merchants or kids walking by. Those doors are always open, and it's a symbol of who we are as an organization. We're there for you. Whether it's just a cup of coffee or a glass of water or a conversation. We're there. We're open, and we learned those two things that day
from Victor.
That
11-year-old boy named Victor.
Yeah.
And Victor, we're still in touch with Victor. He is in prison.
Yes.
He called fairly recently to say hello and ask if when he gets out this time, he's been in many times, and Victor never did a program or a class with us ever, because he was already, 11 by the time we were getting set up there.
But he was always in those doors.
But he was our friend, and he knew we were doing good in the neighborhood. And now he is in his mid-30s, and he's spent most of his adult life in and out of jail because of gang stuff. But he considers us a friend, and we stay in touch with him, and it means a lot to us. And he comes by and sees us when he gets out sometimes.
And he was a gift to us.
Wow. And his little brothers, did come to our program, and
we were able to make a difference with them. So,
right.
So the neighborhood, the immigrant community that's there, we've been honored to serve them. We have the largest Day of the Dead festival in the area. We built that over years because it's the community wanted it, needed it, and we've learned from them. We have learned more from them and gotten more from that community than I think they possibly could have gotten from us.
Wow. Wow. Well, at TEAL, we talk a lot about social emotional learning, and theater we know has just intrinsic value. It's just baked into theater that there's self-awareness, social awareness, relationship skills. Right. As you think about the social emotional learning competencies that you see in students and in teachers, what has been your experience with that, especially around sort of the relationship development? What are you seeing?
SEL is the best thing that ever happened to us, because we've been talking about it for 30 years, but without that name.
Right.
So once we saw there was a castle wheel, we were jumping up and down.
It was a certification for what we knew we needed. We've always been doing, which is the heart work, which is how you manage who you are, you feel who you are. The theater, the central fact of theater is story and empathy. And we've been teaching that for 25 years. So to have you guys say, hey, you can teach this.
Emotions okay now.
Emotions are okay.
Really? We don't have to call it something else?
Oh, yay!
Great, it's
yay!
emotion. Yeah. So for us, the self-awareness piece of the castle wheel, but also the management piece is important for kids. I mean, this is something we have been actively, as adults, trying to get under control in this 3 months of COVID lockdown, right? Where everything's upside down, all the rules are broken of normal day-to-day life. And, it's I think we're all struggling to, cope with our emotions. So, would that we could learn it in school and learn it when we're young.
But that's the demand of an actor. An actor reaches down and finds that menu of feelings: jealousy, hate, love, joy, and feels it and experiences it And then at the end of the play, at the end of the show, at the end of the sketch, at the end of the skit, at the end of the improv, at the end, they have to let that go. They have to find themselves again. And that's that tool, that is exactly the tool an actor uses, and that's what we teach kids, how they can feel and then how they have to manage it and control it and regulate it. And that is the message to us of social emotional learning.
What a gift. What a gift.
Is the
We love
So
that
as
castle wheel.
we are struggling with this digital environment now, asking teachers to take curriculum online in the digital space. How has your artistic work changed as you've thought about what it looks like online, and how could teachers sort of step into that challenge to bring some of these student engagement strategies and tools of theater into an online space or a digital learning platform?
Well, our classes, we took our classes online when the shutdown happened in mid-March, and they markedly got better in April.
Right.
You know, they started off a little clunky as we learned Zoom, and teachers are teaching artists, you know, trying to figure out the tricks of the trade. And you know, like I said, by mid-April, they were better. And then by the end of May, even better still. So much so that they were able to do a little show, and we were able, with our high school kids, we had, I think, 7 graduating seniors going off to college in our leadership program this year. And so we were able to take care packages to each senior's house, deliver it in person, film that, then have them all open their gifts online together. So it was a bit of a graduation party. But you know, I think I want to hear your
well, the
tips on
the tools.
Zoom.
The tools that we've learned are more energy. You have to have more energy than you do just standing there. And we brought in music and sound effects, which are great because that gives us that, you know, some production values. And that the box is a screen. So what are the ways that you can use that screen? You know, you can disappear, you can go out of it, you can come into it. You know, it's an exit and an entrance. You know, all of the things that you can do on a stage. If you think of the box as a stage, we've adapted that and doing it in that way. And storytelling is wonderful. Storytelling is the art form of language, right? We know what dance is, we know what music is, but language is our art form. So to be able to use that in the boxes and share it and exchange it and tell a story and move it around the boxes has been very successful.
You know, our code word in March for this with our team, with our teaching artists and everybody, became break the glass.
Right.
We started telling them, imagine you're reaching through this glass and just break the glass. You've got to penetrate this and get through to those boxes, because that's where your
Right.
engagement lies. That's
Right.
where your student lies.
Right.
And it's not enough to sit in front of the camera and talk to it. You know, you got to reach in there
Right.
and activate it.
Right.
Because if you were in a real space, that's what we would be doing with
Right.
the kids in a classroom.
Right. So to just be, you know, just to be quiet and notice the kids and take a few minutes and think about what the opportunities are.
Not
No,
gonna
no,
work.
not gonna work.
Not
You
gonna work.
gotta see the room. You guys, what's in the back there? Is that, you know, what did you make that? You know,
But that's what it
but they're
takes for
there.
her to
They're
break
with
the
me.
glass, and they are
They're
with her.
me. And you comment on them and you look at them and talk to them and engage them. And it's not just about the lesson, it's about the relationship. That has to be first on Zoom. You know, like, Peggy, how are you doing? That's so great. I love that sweater. You know, you look, and that smile, look at that. The light is on your smile. It's so gorgeous. You know, that then brings them into the room with you, rather than here's what we're going to do, open to page 47, you know.
What an inspiration you two are. Break the glass.
Break that glass.
We like
All
to
right.
think of it
Well-
as radical arts education.
Right.
Yeah, we
Covering.
need that. We need that. All right, we're going to take a look at our second part of the clip now that will take us to through the trajectory of this story. So I invite all of our listeners to tune in to the next part of the clip from 24th Street Theater. Thank you, Jay and Debbie.
In the movies, they go to great lengths to trick you. But one of the really cool things about the live theater is we're not trying to trick you. We know you know.
You know I know what?
We know you know it's not real.
Yeah, we know you know that because you're sitting right there.
Duh.
In the same room. The audience is part of the show.
We know you know.
Know what?
That it's not real. We know you know.
I know.
We
know you know. And that is why we can stylize things in the theater.
Cue the fire.
Perfect. And cue the sound. So you see, Steph, that is stylizing.
It's cool, but it doesn't look like a real fire.
Exactly. It's not supposed to look like a real fire. You see, that's stylization. We're not trying to fool you. We know you know it's not a real fire. You see, the lights and the sound effects, it represents a fire. And so that's the agreement that the audience and the artist on the stage make in live theater. It's a way of making the storytelling more interesting, more magical. Ooh.
You're not going to eat another nickel, are you?
It was a quarter, thank you very much. And no, can't you see I'm making s'mores? Because of this agreement between the artist and the actors, we can stylize anything on the stage. It means we can go anywhere right here on this very stage.
You can't go anywhere if you're stuck on stage. You can't climb a mountain or go into space.
Oh, yeah, I love a challenge. You see, if we use lights and sound and pantomime, we can go anywhere on the stage. What? Let's go into space. Watch.
Preparing for launch, checking systems. All systems are go. Checking life support. Life support online. Preparing for launch. Prepping for launch. 3, 2, 1. See it outside of window 1? No, we're down. All right, I need to check on the roll call angles. Check the roll call angle, All right, double check that if possible. No air, no colors. No, that's all we got. Copy that?
I'm so glad you made it back safely. Hey, you know what? One of the art forms we hadn't talked about was pantomime. You guys were making believe you're putting the helmet on, right? And the computer. Now, you were working so hard on your characters. You didn't see there were a couple of kids in the back when we were doing the weightless? They were like floating up in the air.
Really?
It's very cool.
How about we get everyone to do that?
Oh, you guys want to go into space? No! We're going to rehearse one part. So we're rehearsing. You guys can do this too, all right? So let's try it. The first thing we're going to rehearse is putting on our helmet. And we're going to use pantomime, making believe we have something that's not really there, but locking it in place. And now the harness. Bring that down, because it's going to be a bumpy ride. Lock it on. Fabulous. Great. Now the next thing is communicating with mission control. And you do that with your computer. And you can't be redundant enough. And once you're up into outer space, you are weightless. You are floating around that cabin. Oh, fabulous. Great. And the last thing we're going to rehearse is the collapse, the crisis on board the cabin. Now you're going to take it off that sound cue, so listen carefully, and you're going to go straight down. Again, counting. 1, 2, 3, and you're coming up for air. Fabulous, wonderful. All right, guys, we're going into space. Get those helmets. Beautiful. Great. And now that harness. Lock it in tight. It's a bumpy ride. Good. And now those computers, guys, you're communicating with mission control, with NASA. You cannot communicate enough. It's about your life. Totally. Really check and triple check as you listen for that countdown. Because we're heading up into the stratosphere. Hold on tight. Up! Up through the atmosphere. Up into the stratosphere. Into outer space. And as you float through the cabin, you look out the window and the moon goes by. And then our beautiful Earth that we have to take even better care of goes by. But then this happens. 1, 2, 3, come up for air. All right, guys, you have 8 minutes. We've got to release the computers. We've got to get back down. There is no time.
Computers are not
Let's go.
rebooting.
You are in danger. We've got to get back.
At -2.
Let's go. Here we go. And hold on tight. Back down. Down, down. Down to the atmosphere. Guys, hold on tight. Get ready for splashdown. Yeah! Woo!
So that, my little friend, is stylization. It's when you do something in a non-realistic way to make it look more interesting.
Right. We're not trying to fool you. We know you know.
Yeah, hold on. Hello? Oh, hey, what's up? No, I'm over here at the 24th Street Theater talking to this lame old man.
Hey, what are you doing?
I'm on the phone. Shh. So yeah, I just saw this guy go to outer space. I
No.
know.
You don't have a phone.
Ever heard of stylization, Einstein?
I know. You know I know. You know I know.
Welcome back to our next mindful moment. So in thinking about what you saw in that last clip, the story that was told, putting yourself in the shoes of the characters, you might want to jot down just a few notes about the emotions that that scene brought forward in you, or thinking about how it might play with your own teachers, your own students. As we tell these stories and we uncover our shared experiences, finding common ground, finding how we are connected, creates an environment in our schools, in our classrooms, where all students can thrive. Let's take a moment to reflect on that. The rich diversity that makes up Los Angeles County, how we're all part of that. Thank you for taking this mindful moment with me.
Thank you so much, Peggy. I really appreciate that. Thank you guys for still being here with us. I know I am super inspired just hearing you talk with Peggy just now. And I'm wondering, what are some of the things you hope that teachers and educators and artists listening to this session, what are some of the things you hope that they could go and do immediately, either after just listening to us here today or maybe after when they leave a theater or a Zoom session with you, what are some of those things that might be the kind of quick or easier things that they could do to jumpstart a focus on theater with their students?
Think about themselves as the storyteller. We are all protagonists of our own lives. So the storyteller is not somebody over there in the corner that has skills. We all have the skills. We are, artists. All of us are artists, and teaching is a performing art. So embrace it. Don't be afraid of it. And if you are, feel the fear and then go through it and tell the story. Just be the storyteller. It's the most authentic thing you can do. And it's so exciting and so wonderful, and discover what the impact you can have telling a simple story about your own life, or a story that you love. Be a storyteller.
And it's funny, we ask teachers all the time, we do a little survey and ask them often if they consider themselves artists, usually very few, small percentage. And then we say, who considers yourself a storyteller? And usually most hands go up, right? Because teachers, that's kind of, especially if you're a kindergarten teacher, first grade teacher, you do a lot of storytelling. So you think of yourself, that doesn't seem like a stretch to you. And if you can just get behind that concept, you're a theater person.
I love it. I love how accessible you all make all of this. I mean, it really goes so far, no matter the age of the learner, right? And you're making that point so well. Regardless of the age, there are things we can do to be more accessible in person and online.
I never
you've
thought
already
of play
covered
until college, Kim.
Oh, is that true?
I didn't see my first play until I was in college. I mean, that's,
Wow.
so theoretically, I came into it late.
You can be an actor, you can teach theater, you can experience it. Exactly.
I'm glad you added that part, because I think so often people do somehow associate maybe even class with theater and with the arts, right? And they think what they did or didn't get to do as a child. And so the story you were telling about Victor, I think it's so relevant in so many ways, that the work you're doing is to bring this to all children, all schools, and you make your work, you make it able to be delivered that way to all the schools in your area, and to even think of teachers as putting up those barriers. So, that makes me think, I know you've commented on this a little bit here today, but before we go, I would love to hear you just say a little bit more about the role theater can play as we grapple with these issues around racial and social justice. I think that this clip you chose is just such a great reminder of our history, and anything else you want to share about how theater can help with some of the things we're all struggling with right now.
Love. I mean, it really is. The beautiful thing about theater is it is empathy. Do you feel what the character is feeling? Because we're human beings. We're, and that's that incredible feeling of empathy. We particularly like to traffic in love and respect, and self-love and self-respect is where that confidence is built, and where that capacity is to try and be courageous and fail, and then get up again and succeed. But we are a community, and there has to be much more empathy for people's circumstances, and love and honor what's happening in the world right now. And we're thrilled that we can tell those stories, and we can continue to tell those stories.
Yeah, and empathy is a word in recent years, we've added it to our vocabulary list for our field trips. So when we're back in schools, our teaching artists are writing that, on the board in big letters, empathy, and saying, here's what that means. And you all have it. Everyone in this room has it. You may not know you have it, but you have it. Right. And theater's like that, where there's just so many angles of ways you can use it. You can have direct content. You can use some of the techniques. You don't have to have a great deal of expertise. You can do tableaus, frozen pictures about, show me a picture of respect. Boom.
Right.
Show me a picture of disrespect. Boom. Right. Let's analyze those. I mean, it could be that simple, just starting a conversation about social justice and racial equity with theater as a tool.
Right.
So there's a million applications
And entry points.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's
We had
leave.
fun today. Thank you for inviting us.
Well, I think love and empathy is exactly the right place to bring this all home. So I'm going to just wrap us up a little bit. We talk about TEAL as being a braid, and really braiding together a lot of elements, a lot of components to create a deeper understanding. So yes, the multi-tiered system of support and universal designs for learning, the project-based learning, having an arts plan, having a sense of student voice and choice, but really at the center of that, of serving our community, our students, our teachers, our families, really bringing parent engagement in so that everyone feels like they have a place at the table. This diagram, this drawing was made by our colleague Greg Johnson from the LA County Department of Arts and Culture at one of our TEAL workshops. And I thought he really captured the spirit of what we're trying to do. All of the creative expression and storytelling that Jay and Debbie so beautifully articulated today is right there in the center. The student voice and choice, crossing over language and linguistic barriers, all of that wrapped around with measurable progress, being able to see what's changing, what's transforming as a result of us doing this work together. So I wanted to honor this incredible visual arts representation, including the rays of sunshine that are coming out in every different direction from the work that we do supporting each other in this ecosystem, which is TEAL. For more information, you can visit tealarts.laco.edu. We have the modules there. We have a lot of great support for all the educators. And we're so grateful to everyone who has been involved in this session today. Thank you. Thank you, Kim,
Really.
Jay, Debbie.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. And thank you for those who are listening along and are now ready to go out there and bring more theater to your classroom.